Living in Italy looks like a dream on social media. Perfect plates of pasta, stunning piazzas, and sunsets with a glass of wine. But let me tell you, after 20 years of living here, it's not always like that. Sure, some parts are amazing, but other parts will make you question your life choices. So let me break it down. And stick with me because later I'll explain that moment to you when I realized I was no longer a tourist. Fantasy versus reality. The fantasy, slow food, an incredible life, blending in effortlessly, speaking Italian fluently, daily espressos at the coffee bar, an apartment with the view of the Duomo. You can imagine yourself sitting there talking with the locals at the cafe, everybody having a great time. But the reality, well, bureaucracy will break you. It takes 10 times longer here than what you might think. I can remember when I was first in Florence, grazie for Luigi and Elena because they drove me around everywhere, the owners of my apartment. They drove me around everywhere to get all my paperwork done. And believe me, there's tons of paperwork that need to be done. I'm going up a steep hill here. Stick with me because there's something special I want to share with you at the top of the hill. They helped me get all my paperwork done. In Italy, there's so much paperwork that comes with everything you need to do, whether it's opening up a bank or moving in to a new home. And don't expect everyone's going to be speaking English. You gotta know Italian before you come here in Italy if you want to make it your home. It is true, people speak English, but the further you get away from the tourist hubs, you're gonna find the Italians, well, they only speak their mother tongue. There's the cost of living surprises. Sure, things can be inexpensive here in Italy, and I'm thinking of wine, produce, going out to dinner, but other things can be expensive. I'm talking about rent, utilities, and just the general services here in Italy and in Europe. And I say can, the key word there is can, because if you go further out of the popular cities, you can get amazing deals on rentals, but just be prepared, everything comes with its fees here in Italy. Making friends is difficult. Italians are great, they're open, they're friendly, but to truly get into their social network and become a good friend, well, that's difficult. They tend to stick with their childhood friends. So if you're dreaming of moving here to Italy, you need to be ready for these challenges. Making friends, well, I think it's a bit like getting residency. Possible, but painfully slow and full of paperwork. Daily life, what changes over time? When I first moved to Italy, I thought it was like the United States and I would need a car. For a while I didn't have one. After a couple of years, I couldn't resist. It's a massive car culture here in Italy. So I got my first car, this beautiful little Volkswagen. I always wanted a Volkswagen. Actually, I had a Volkswagen in the United States. I had one of those big Volkswagen buses, the big vans. I think it was a 1971. I got a Volkswagen Lupo, this small, tiny car, smaller than a Golf, smaller than a Polo. Then I graduated from that. I did eventually get a Volkswagen Golf. And eventually, I had a BMW 3 Series car. I really loved the Lupo. It was so cute, but kind of too small and impractical. Great for parking in these tiny spots. The BMW 3 Series, well, you can't beat that, and I would go back to that if I needed a car. But the reality here in Italy, you don't need a car. The cities, well, they're walkable. Everything is within arm's reach. If I need to go to the butcher, he's down the street. If I need to go to the Carrefour, well, it's further on. If I want to get fresh fruits and vegetables, well, it's right outside of the gate where I live at Porta Romana. You can find it all near you. And if you want to drive, well, you're going to be facing a lot of traffic and things, and that's probably why people don't drive that much here in Italy. If I do need a car, what I'll do is go with the car sharing options. Many of the big cities have a car sharing option, and here in Florence, well, we have one that's called Any Enjoy. It's great. You pay by the minute. You hop in, you use it. You can drive almost anywhere around Florence, and it's a Fiat 500. Of course, it's red and a manual transmission. So in Italy, you don't need a car. Owning a car in Italy is like ordering pineapple on a pizza. Some people do it, but you really don't need to. So instead of driving a car, I use my feet, my city bike, and the occasional car share. Bikes and walking, well, that's the true Italian way. When I didn't have my car, well, I basically traded it in for a city bike, but not an expensive one, not a fancy one. I've had my share of those, but a beat up one. I bought something from a bike shop nearby here that was used, beat up. I paid around $50 for this old Bianchi. So that way your bike is less likely to get stolen and you can leave it locked outside, and it's super convenient to always pop on it if you need to go for those longer hauls across town to get some paperwork done instead of just the produce stand that's nearby your house. And you think you walk a lot now, but in Italy, it's all about walking. You're gonna get well more than your 10,000 steps a day. So embrace the walking life and be prepared, come with good shoes. And we are almost to the payoff up here. I'll show it to you. Eating and drinking, a whole new experience. Going out to eat here is fun, super relaxed, chilled, and a great time to get together with your friends. But in other countries, say like the United States, it can be stressful. It can feel expensive, hurried, and the waiter always leaning on you, maybe for a bigger tip. So here in Italy, eating out 3 times a week, well, that's totally normal. And then there's the wine. Oh, the wine. How I love my Italian wine. But in the United States or abroad, it can feel exotic. It can feel misunderstood, and it can be very expensive. But here, it's within reach. Once I've lived here, I've learned so much about wine and all the different types, and I drank so much just by experiencing it, and it's not that expensive. You get to sample everything from the north, Barbaresco, all the way down to the south, the Primitivo from Puglia. I just love my wine, and you will too. You'll get into this whole new adventure, a whole food odyssey of living in Italy. The moment I realized I was no longer a tourist, do you remember at the start when I said I'd explain that moment? That moment when you no longer feel like a visitor and you start feeling like you belong? Well, maybe it was that moment I argued with the waiter because he brought me the wrong plate of pasta, or I told an elderly woman to stand down because she tried to cut me off in line at the post office. Yeah, it happens. Or maybe it was that moment when I was heading outside and I instinctively grabbed a scarf to cover my neck so I wouldn't catch a cold from the air hitting my neck. By the way, I no longer believe in that mojo superstition, but I usually wear jackets in the winter that do zip up past my neck, especially on terrible days like this when it's coming down with rain. But maybe it was that one morning when I woke up, grabbed an espresso, and I realized I wasn't dreaming of going back home anymore. You think when you move to Italy, you're gonna be eating pasta every day, but the reality is you're gonna be complaining to the waiter when the pasta comes overcooked. Or when you're abroad in the neighboring countries, France and Spain, you're gonna be complaining about how the cafe there, the coffee, isn't as good as what you find back home in Italy. Oh, this isn't what I hoped. It just started pouring down on me here. Let me know, have you ever thought about moving to Italy? Drop down in the comments. Have you ever lived here in Italy, or do you think about making it your future home? I'd love to hear from you. Also, I always try to reply to all the comments that come in on the videos after it's published, and I prioritize those from the channel members or from my patrons. Patrons, yes, I have a Patreon account, and if you want to support me and get all sorts of goodies and a good feeling, well, please consider joining up. Italy isn't perfect, but it changes you. So if you're up for the challenge, it can be one of the most rewarding experiences you can have in your life. If you are planning on moving here and you want more exploration on the topic, well, I made a whole nother video. You can watch it here next. What I wish I knew sooner after 20 years of living here in Italy. Oh, you didn't think I'd forget about it, but right over there, you see that plaque? I noticed it one day, and it's a plaque to Florence Nightingale. Yes, the famous Florence Nightingale. She was born here, I think, to British parents, and because of her service with hospitals and how she helped modernize, well, anyway, she practiced here. This is the whole story. It all started here.